I feel like most people want to rule the world. Those born into democracy want to stay with democracy, but those born in the power of democracy want it gone to remain in power. So many countries wish they could rule the world. But if you get a whole continent entirely under one identity, eventually it will fall. To have one homogenous identity would be a curse to your entire nation. Because the Roman Empire didn't dissolve to some civil war. It dissolved with people realizing, after encompassing a larger area, that they were all different in some sort of way, and they need to be divided by such differences, because they're obviously not the same. They cannot say that any longer. If you rule the whole world, thinking you'll make your cultural empire stronger, you just entirely ruin the uniqueness of what made your culture different from any other one, and suddenly it's gone. If Russia wins all those wars it's trying to start and it remakes the Soviet Union, it's dissolving immediately again. Not immediately, but like within a few decades. A lot of people are gonna stop calling themselves Russian after already getting used to being Russians again. Even if those countries don't fully separate, because that's probably gonna be way harder a second time. I've thought, because like I have like a lot of passion projects I want to do, just things I want to draw, write, sew, all of that stuff. But I have a lot of schoolwork I gotta do as well. So I keep trying to do both, and then I don't get any of my passion projects finished, and I got a bunch of schoolwork I still need to do. Sometimes I just think, I wish I could just have a clone do all my schoolwork for me while I do all the other projects. Because I know they need to be done. At least one of them, one of the sides fully done at once. And then we can get to the other side quicker. So if I had a clone, it'd know the same thing and know this stuff has to get done. The part of me that just wants to finally finish my passion projects is the same one that knows I have to finish my schoolwork. So if I had a clone, he'd be fine with doing it. If I was a clone of myself and I was told to do the schoolwork while the other one is sewing, I'd do it. I'd go along with it because I know it needs to happen, and it'll put both of us at ease to know our identity is gonna be represented with getting all this stuff finished. But if there were millions of me, and I'm the only one flipping manure while there's like several of them just sitting on farms with their workers harvesting crops for them, I'm not gonna see this as worth it anymore. My friends messaged me. It's a weird thing to have in this thing I was talking so passionately about. You never, like, people need unique, like, unity is never about being the same. It's about standing together as different people. That's what makes it stronger, knowing that different experiences come together. Because like everyone always thinks, if there was just a whole civilization, full society of just clones of themselves, that it'd be peaceful. If someone's socialist, they'll have an entire socialist society and they live peacefully. If someone's racist, they're gonna have a whole society with no one to discriminate against, and they can live peacefully as well. You could be good, you could be bad. You're gonna live peacefully if you have all of them. But eventually, they're gonna realize it's not worth it, because you still need a system for every single one of you to live. So eventually, with all those people and how intelligent you are, you're gonna remake government. You're gonna fully rediscover civilization. And so eventually, they're gonna realize nothing's worth it. Someone's capitalist and they have all their clones make a civilization. Half of them are going to realize the flaws of capitalism. If they're socialists, they're going to realize one of them having to still give up some of their resources when they have nothing, it's not going to be worth it for them anymore. I'm socialist, but I'm sure I would stop being socialist. Half of them would stop being socialist if we were in a pure socialist society, because then there'd be so many more nuances that aren't even apparent in the world, because no one is this peaceful. You'd be remaking the fall of society. I've said everything I need to say. That's all I really mean by any of this. I know the flaws in a lot of things I believe, but I just don't think there's anything better off of what we already have. I say I'm socialist. I know there's people who see flaws in socialism. I hate capitalism far more though. Because, well, I hear in a lot of socialist countries, a lot of businesses have to give what they make to the government so that the government can still help the people. And then that's how people who can't afford food are given food by the government to still survive. Because that's something the government needs to add onto this essentially just economical system and what turns it into a full political and governmental system. A lot of people see that as flawed. And it is a very hard thing to do. But to live in capitalism, people are born into power and they stay in power because they have something to live off of for their entire lives that make them look successful, that gives them more opportunities to stay afloat. When everyone that's poor is looked down upon and overlooked, and they can never get up from that situation. So you're stuck living jobs that will keep you poor by not paying you enough. And you can never save enough without starving yourself. I don't like capitalism. Capitalism is built on the idea of conservatism too. That's why so many liberals are socialists now. Because the conservatives want to keep capitalism. They could be middle class, but at least they're not low class. And then the high class want to stay high class, obviously. So they're gonna keep the system that keeps them in power, because everyone just wants power the moment they get a glimpse of it. When I was younger, I wanted to live in a monarchy, being a monarch, because I always thought those seemed so cool, and I wanted to stay in power, do all that stuff, and then have like a lineage. That is not a good way to live though for the people, and I know that. If I'm not giving myself such good values, I'd have horrible ideas. So I know that in my idea of a perfect government, I could possibly still struggle. I still prefer that idea over what we're living in, or the other things that could be happening in the world. Because, like, again, capitalism is built on conservatism, and plus conservatism, it's in the name. They want to conserve things. They want to keep the past. They don't want to change things. White people are in power. The white people are conservatives and want to stay being the majority. So because of that, they're going to overlook someone like an immigrant, and suddenly an immigrant is going to get less opportunities and they're going to get worse jobs. Those bad jobs are going to keep them poor. And again, like I said, poor jobs, low income, is going to get them overlooked and stuck in only poor paying jobs. We are impoverished because we are Hispanic. My grandparents had to keep going back from Colombia to New Jersey. They kept having to go back and forth for some sort of opportunities, and they never did well. They were impoverished in a third world country that they lived most of the time in. Literally in the same neighborhood as a cartel. My mother was the very middle child of 5 children. They came over here and they're discriminated. She didn't learn English until my age right now. Not until like 15 or 16. My father immigrated here illegally. They have not gotten good opportunities. A lot of discrimination. We're still impoverished. And it's not gonna get better than that. Because capitalism is literally built on the idea of people in power wanting to stay in power. You get rewarded for the amount of work you do, but you don't get better opportunities to even get better jobs that could get you more payments if you don't have the money for it. It's like when people complain about needing experience to get a job, but the job won't let them work because they don't have experience, which they're trying to get from the job. You can't get a good opportunity without money, but you don't get the money without good opportunities. And I want to bring up the idea of the clones. I said a lot of people would think it'd be peaceful if they're like that. Again, like with all that I said, if there was a society of just clones of yourself, eventually, a few centuries later, you're going to just rediscover the entirety of how civilization works. You're going to reinvent the political compass. You're all gonna have the same political belief, but eventually, you're all gonna hate the position you're in, except for the ones in power. And suddenly, where you could be originally left-wing, half of you are gonna become right-winged out of nowhere, and half of you are gonna become far left. So many of you are gonna be in the middle. It's like, it wouldn't work. That's what I like to say. I'm socialist, but I really do, like, I resonate so much with anarchism. People always say, because like, when they say something's anarchy, they mean everything is crazy, it's chaos, terrible stuff is happening, rampaging everywhere. But the idea of anarchy would not be that. It's the idea of not having a government and not needing a government. The whole idea of anarchism as a political belief is the idea that no nation needs to be a whole thing that we're ruled under, and everyone's just there peacefully with no need for government or economy. Essentially, living with the mindsets we have now as if we were still in like the prehistoric times. Cavemen didn't have any concept of an economy. They just survived, and after a while, they traded with each other to keep living. It wasn't until after that they started making a currency with an abstract value to it. But in anarchism, you all live peacefully. You're not hating each other because there's no reason to view each other as unequal anymore. And there wouldn't be chaos or anything terrible like that, because without laws and no punishment, there's no fear, and without all this other weird political stuff, there's no reason for people to do bad things anymore. No one's gonna murder someone out of spite or out of jealousy for something. No one's gonna steal something from someone else because there's no value to anything anymore. That's what I would say true peace is. Anarchism is like the idea of pure peaceful civilization. I don't see why people don't get that, so like at all. Everyone hates anarchism. I've never met a single anarchist before. Maybe someday. I never met a single genderqueer male person until this year. You know, there's a lot of types of people you'll never meet. Like, it is weird that it took me a while to find those. I felt very alone. That's why I never identified this as stuff. But in anarchy, I don't like talking politically with people, because like I know so many people. The people I talk with are obviously people I'm gonna get along with and have in common ideas with. So a lot of them are going to, like, they're all liberal. Most of them are liberals and have like a lot of the same beliefs. But no one's gonna be the exact same. So I don't like being political, because then it's just like a bunch of disagreements when you initially thought you all had so much more in common. I'm not gonna be the single anarchist because people are gonna argue like that'd be chaos. No, I say like no one's gonna do any crime. They'd be like, because crime doesn't technically exist. They do bad things without punishment. They wouldn't need to, and that'd be something difficult for me to explain to them, because they don't understand this stuff. No one can truly understand anything outside of what we're living in, because we don't live in that. We don't have a full understanding of communism. We just think it's bad when we're not the ones living in it. The people living in like communist Russia are living and a country where they hate their economical system, and we're here hating our economical system. The powerful people over there like it because they have taken the means of production. Communism is the idea that we can have a economical system without a need for a government. But to keep a country, they needed a government. So now, where it was initially no one owns anything and the economy is ruled by people, it's suddenly the economy is maintained by people, and all of the things are owned by the government that are keeping them in line. It's entirely different and should really have a different name, though to be fair, the original idea would have probably just been called Bolshevism. And now communism is its own thing. And then capitalism, terrible stuff. The rich get richer off of standing on top of all the poor people. Society is just a terrible thing to think about. To think like, so many liberals are thinking like, oh, the president right now, he's trying to go and figure out how to make third terms and then make it so that he doesn't have to keep getting elected, he just stays there. Half the Republicans are just like, yeah, I'd be fine with that, honestly, and the other half are like, it's not true, he was making a joke, he's not being serious about that, stop taking it so seriously. The main things I based this entire topic about was, I've had a few assignments in my civics class about the perfect government and having to research other things. So he literally described anarchism as chaos and that it's not good, it's very flawed. And I was thinking to myself, that's not true. And we had to like write our idea of a perfect government and then do a separate project for trying to form and describe the government we'd want to live in. So that's where I had to think of that stuff. The clone stuff is literally just me thinking, like, I wish I had a clone to do my work for me. And then thinking deeper, like, if that, like, would he really go with it? Probably. If there was more of them, it'd be complicated. Why do I gotta do this specifically? That one's just writing papers simply, and I'm, like, taking out the trash every day or something. Stupidest of all, I just really wanted to follow, like, an account of another country that has nothing to do with me, because I thought that'd be just funny if people saw that. So I followed the official account for Bulgaria, because apparently that's a thing. No way it's run by the Bulgarian government. Yeah, this one post about them literally just, like, taking over Europe gradually until it's like the whole world is just Bulgaria. And I know it's a joke, obviously. It's probably not even run by someone who's ever even been to Bulgaria. It's a stupid post, but I saw this and I literally thought in my head, people would just stop being Bulgarian by that point. Now the whole world is just one identity. At that point, you don't have different continents, you're just gonna call everything Bulgaria. There's no reason to have a separate name for Bulgaria as an empire and Earth as a planet, because it's all the same now with the people living on it. So at that point, you've just made the idea of being Bulgarian the same as being human. You're just gonna, that whole empire is just gonna fall at that point. You're remaking civilization right there. So three very stupid points to base this whole video off of, but you know. I need to find more anarchists though. There's this one friend I have, kind of friend, none of us really like him that much. I feel like he's just communist for the sake of communism. I think he does it just because it's funny to him. Like, so many people find it unserious, and like people on the internet will find communism to just like, that's just a thing they like joking about because they're so unserious about it. They would not genuinely be communists, and they don't have any sort of political beliefs because they don't think about that stuff too much. They try not to, they just want to think about jokes. This guy's just communist for the sake of humor. I don't think he's a real anarchist, but he talks about it sometimes. Like, I don't know anyone that's a true anarchist. 20-minute video again, yeah.